Hello. I am making this video to try to address a point that I think is somewhat misunderstood about evolution and creationism. A lot of people seem to think that it's important for us to find the missing link to prove that evolution is true. And while it is true that we want to find intermediate species, what we're never going to do is find the missing link, because there's no such thing as the missing link. It's a misnomer for a couple of reasons. It's not missing. We found a number of intermediate species from humans to the last common ancestor we had with the other great apes. And it's really not any special in terms of being a link, because I think people misunderstand what a species is. A species isn't a distinct set, defined thing. And actually, scientists don't even really agree on what a species is. Some people define it as anything that can produce viable offspring or reproducing offspring. Those two things would be members of the same species. But by that mention, a chihuahua and a boxer would be members of a different species, because the chihuahua is too small to mate with the boxer. It's basically a conflict between the large world that we see, the everyday world, the common world, where things seem fairly distinct. A tree of a certain kind, like a maple tree, is a maple tree, and a hummingbird is a hummingbird. But that's really not the reality of what's going on, because at the genetic level, you look at a maple tree or a hummingbird, and that hummingbird could represent what is indistinguishable to you could be dozens of species of hummingbirds that none can't reproduce with each other, or have different lineages, or have been separated and speciated. In the same way, human beings, we're not any special in terms of the genetic history of the world. We're not special. There's no special link, between us and the great apes. There's nothing to link to, because human being is just, Homo sapiens is just a snapshot in time of where this genetic path is. You might as well say we're the missing link between, the common ancestor we had with the great apes and whatever comes 2 million years down the road from us, if we do have any ancestors or any descendants. Species are changing all the time, and it's sort of a fluid boundary that seems very clear to us in our everyday world, but when you break it down, it's fluid, it's confusing, and it's arbitrary. We say one thing is a species, and by one definition it is a species. By another definition, it's two different species, or three, or a dozen. So for that reason, it's a fool's errand to start with. Of course, it is important to find these intermediate steps in evolution, and we have found quite a bit of them. I'd have to say, the trend for the last 500 years or so has been that science has not been very kind to religion or any of its claims. But it's even more markedly true in the last 20 years than you'd even believe. I mean, arguments that held a little bit of weight. The missing link argument was a pretty decent one 20 years ago, and now it's laughable. I think it's safe to say that it's laughable. We have uncovered so many more ancient intermediate species as to reveal the fact that history per se doesn't favor any one species or another as a stopping point, as a point where, like, this is the real thing, this is a real animal. We're all just fluidly changing. And one little interesting note that occurred to me today, in terms of the great creative vision of God as the creator of the universe, I just have to wonder, and check this is true, I just have to wonder, what was he thinking? Was he drunk? when he made 40% of our DNA be from viruses, and our main source of energy is a bacterium that lives in our cells, mitochondria. It's a bacterium that has adapted itself to live in our bodies. So, since we get our energy from bacteria, and 40% of our coding is from viruses, I guess maybe, Christians, would you say that that's the fall? And without it, we would be mitochondria-free and have only 60% of our DNA? I don't know. You tell me.